Welcome to Tailboard Tips. We're going to talk about fire department connections. FDC operations. Some of the regulations you may want to look through to get more information are those on standpipe systems in an FPA 14, sprinkler systems in 13, and then inspection test maintenance of water-based fire protection systems in an FPA 25. In this picture, you see a portion of the building that extends outward that is typically used for a fire pump. An indicator that this is a fire pump, in addition to the fact that it sticks out, is the test header. On the left side, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2.5-inch connections, each worth 250 GPM, so that's a 1250 GPM fire pump. There's a water gong for an audible indicator that water is flowing, something to listen to upon approach. And when you're looking for the FDC, they should be painted red, should have a contrasting background so they're easy to see. They don't always. Oftentimes people paint them to try to hide them, so because they don't think they look good. But they should be fairly readily identifiable. And down here we have the fire department connection. This one is a Storks fitting to what appears to be a larger size pipe. If we're flowing into this building, the connecting pipe will be on the discharge side of the fire pump. In case there is a problem with the fire pump, the fire engine can take its place and supply the system, the sprinkler system. You may also have a standpipe system, but being what appears to be a single-story tall ceiling structure, there's probably not a standpipe system. Yet, if we want to know, we can read the label around this disc right here, and it should tell us. We also see a couple of drains for the system. The riser will be on the interior of the structure, more than likely. So this building would give us access to the plumbing for the fire pump and the FDC portion of the fire suppression system. Fire department connections can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. Oftentimes it is a Siamese, like you see on the left. That's the body or the housing of the Siamese. There'll typically be a clapper valve on the interior. It has a swivel, which is a female. Your male coupling will go into this swivel. These are plugs. They're specifically Knox plugs that require a key to open up. You could have a Storks fitting. You could have a larger 4-inch or 5-inch threaded fitting. Additional 2.5 inches fittings on a manifold. This is a manifold. It's fabricated for a variety of connections for whatever facility it's designed for. And you need to be familiar with your district and what you're going to run into. But those are the basic features of the fire department connection. Sometimes the FDC will be wall mounted. Sometimes it'll be freestanding. To me, sometimes these freestanding guys are difficult to see. A lot of times they'll be behind bushes. People want to hide them, so they've got them behind bushes, or they're somewhat inaccessible. Whereas if there's a long offset to the building, it'd be a lot easier to connect to freestanding FDC close to the road. A lot easier than it would be to lay an extended line. Back plate on the FDC to the one on the left, I was telling you that it feeds an automatic sprinkler only. If you're looking at the intake on the FDC, you remove the plug, the cap, or the Storks fitting. You should look on the inside and make sure that there's a gasket and that it's unobstructed. This one has a stainless steel mesh in there to help prevent people from placing things in there that would obstruct the flow. And here's an example of an FDC sign and another reference, which is the International Fire Code. And this is a while back, but it's a memorandum I found from a fire department that I know of that mentioned that we're going to ensure that we inspect for these signs at all facilities that are required to have sprinklers or standpipes. So they're required to be inspected annually. It's not typically the fire department's job. However, just so you know, things to look for are that the FDC is visible from the road, that it's unobstructed, and if it's not visible from the road and there's fire department access around the sides and or rear of the building, it has to be visible from that access, and that should be, the designated, painted, proper width access for the fire department. Should be less than 100 foot from a hydrant and 50 foot from that access or street. During a quarterly inspection, you should look at the lettering that designates what the FDC feeds. It's either a sprinkler, a standpipe, or both. Should be labeled on the back plate. There should also be an FDC sign, red on white. And if the hydraulic demand of the system is greater than 150 psi, that should tell you what that's for. And then you just want to make sure everything functions and there's no obvious damage to it. Just so you know, every 5 years, the FDC piping from the connection to the system is to be hydro tested and visually inspected. Anything that is easily accessible to 150 psi for 2 hours.
Okay, so once you get your male cap out of the fitting, then you want to inspect. You're going to inspect that the swivels both ways freely. You also want to inspect the inner gasket to make sure that it's not dried, cut, or only part of it's in there. Then you're going to look for any obvious debris. If you have a clappered Y, you want to make sure that the clapper moves freely. In this one, we've got a 3 outlet straight piped in. So we noticed that this swivel right here was stiff and wouldn't spin. What you can do in that instance is, if you know you've got to go right, you can do 6 to 7 twists. Counter that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then once you're up here, the swivel won't move, but now you can spin your twist out. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now when you lay back to your engine, your hose is still straight, you got a tight fitting, you can flow water. Okay, so once you get your male cap out of the fitting, then you want to inspect. You're going to inspect that the swivels both ways freely. You also want to inspect the inner gasket to make sure that it's not dried, cut, or only part of it's in there. Then you're going to look for any obvious debris. If you have a clappered Y, you want to make sure that the clapper moves freely. In this one, we've got a 3 outlet straight piped in. So we noticed that this swivel right here was stiff and wouldn't spin. What you can do in that instance is, if you know you've got to go right, you can do 6 to 7 twists. Counter that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then once you're up here, the swivel won't move, but now you can spin your twist out. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now when you lay back to your engine, your hose is still straight, you got a tight fitting, you can flow water.
All right, here we are at Longview Regional. This is the Diagnostic Clinic of Longview at 802 Medical Drive, west side of the building. has an FDC.
Here you go. So here we've got our diagram. Single building, see what we're saying, 4 stories. So we've got our FDC 4-inch hook in, Storts, 5-inch or 5-inch Storts. And then above that, we've got our pump test connections. We're not going to mess with these today, but today we're going to look at this Knox Storts guard. It'll use the same Knox key, dog bone, and you'll notice on this one that it has a latch unlocked, latch engaged indicator, and it's a 1/4 turn. So that's it. So boom,
Okay.
and then you can slide your Storts off. Did I turn it? Oh. Okay, so now we're at the 707 Hollybrook Medical Building. Here you can see we've got our diagram again. So this is 707, 5 stories. Here we've got a Siamese dual 2.5 with a clapper, and then the plate covers. So when we're approaching these, again, we'll go back over the basics. We want to make sure that the swivels work, and then we're going to use a wrench or hammer to break this. When you look on the back side, it's thinned out so that you can break it in the center and then drop both pieces off, and then you can hook your 2.5 in. If you happen to find that one of these is seized, go ahead and check the other one, and if it works, go ahead and break it and put it in use. The clapper will secure this from flowing water back out, so you can get the water in the system, get it in use, and then troubleshoot this side. And if this is seized up, again, go back to 6-7 twist in your hose, and then twist it in to a good tight, and then you can use it.
Here we are at Evergreen of Longview. This is a single-story apartment complex. Each building has approximately 8 apartment units that are through and through, front door and a rear exit. Only some of them have sprinklers, however. They're supplied by a 2.5 FDC. The 2.5-inch does have the Knox locking plug on them. Inside the sprinkler room, we see that it does have a visible indicator, a flashing strobe, and okay, the supply line is 1.5 inches. And that takes you all the way up. Looks like there's 50 psi on the system from the city water. The alarm panel is inside the closet, and there's also a pull station readily accessible on the exterior and within the closet. Then about a 1-inch main drain off the side. Downtown Longview. We come up to the Glover Crim building at 140 East Tyler. We're on what we would consider Division Charlie, away from Tyler Street. There's a parking lot in the rear. Discussing high-rise ops and fire department connections, supplementing standpipes and or sprinkler systems. There's nothing visible on the front. If you make your way all the way around to Division Charlie and look around the corner, you'll finally find the FDC, which does support a sprinkler system and a fire pump. You'll notice it's 2 2.5s, and driver Wilson will explain this to you.
Okay, so here we got 2 2.5s. So we would come up, and again, we're going to check. We want to make sure that everything's loose. Check that everything's loose here. As we take our caps out, set them to the side, we want to make sure that we got a gasket, and we're going to look in to see if we can see the clapper. We can't see it here. It's going to come to this side, and we're going to look. And again, we can't see it. So at this point, we make sure we're spinning, and we're going to hook up 2 lines.
Okay.
So
Why do we have to have both of them?
well, hooking up 2 lines is your only option, because if you left this cap tight and you hooked in 1 line with no clapper in place, then you couldn't open this back up to add a line. So you get flow back out.
Upon further investigation of this Siamese, we see that there is a clapper valve and it flips upward. You can see in here a slight movement. So
If I can get under it.
it is. As we looked at it, we identified that obviously this Siamese is just flipped upside down. So you can see the hinge pin is on the bottom, and therefore the clapper is not going to work. We may be able to twist the whole thing, but they typically have a set screw that prevents you from spinning them. So that may not actually work. That would be up to the building owner to correct. So far, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. We learned to identify the location of the FDC, some features of fire department connections, what they're used for, how they should be labeled, and the whole purpose behind them, basically how they work. Next part, we are going to discuss making the connection and placement of apparatuses. And the final part, we will discuss how to pump FDCs from the driver operator perspective.